So, we're about a week away from Renegades, and right now, as I am filming this, Renegades live stream is about to happen, so there might be some things that are in that live stream, or in a Twab, in this next week or so, that give us some information that I don't yet have, but from the last month or so, there's been several blog posts and Twabs or Twids or whatever the it's called now, giving us basically a rundown of changes to abilities, the sandbox, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to be giving you a rundown of all of the changes that we have been told about in as short, sweet, concise way possible. If you want further details, if you want more exact numbers and figures, then you can go onto the Bunige website and you can get that. Well, the ADS damage scaler of lightweight frame sidearms has been increased from 10.1 to 10.20. Like, great. Okay. That's not the stuff that I'm necessarily worried about. The things that I'm more concerned with are going to be a lot more impactful on gameplay, and I'm going to run through 4 sections. The first section is going to be just general sweeping to all 3 classes. This is going to be predominantly weapon changes. Then I'm going to do Hunters, and then I'm going to do Titans, and then I'm going to do Warlocks. So if you're only here for Warlock or something like that, then, you could feel free to skip. And I'll have timestamps on screen somewhere here. But let's hit it. So, general changes. First, all exotics are going to be featured gear. This is all weapons, all armor, including the exotic class items. Disorient is now a actual verb, so if you see that on any of your abilities or weapons or subclass stuff, it's now a more broad and a standardized effect. There's going to be a rework to the HUD. Our buffs and our debuffs are getting a priority change so that the things that are actually important, like say cross counter on your Liar's Handshake, is going to be on top of things that are less important, like a fire sprite cooldown. We are getting the ammo scout mods back, giving buffs to your teammates. This is your amplified, radiant, your subclass buffs give you progress towards the ammo meter. Bows across the entire board are going to be firing faster. Fusion rifles are getting a fire rate and a damage buff. Shotguns are getting a PvE buff to their damage. The rocket pulse rifles are getting a decrease to their total amount of ammo. Ace of Spades getting a 12% damage buff. We have Hawk Moon. Hawk Moon is getting kind of a rework. It is now gaining damage per stack of its buff. So every headshot hit is going to increase its next shot damage. The Osteostriga, it's going to proc the poison explosion twice as often. Soros can now change the firing modes back and forth by doing a long press of whatever your reload button is. Vision Zero now is going to do a kinetic tremor shockwave. Collective Obligation is now going to make its own void effects, and I believe it goes from weakened to volatile to suppression. Symmetry is now gaining stacks of bolt charge, which is very nice. The combination of Still Hunt and Nighthawk now has a 40% increase to its damage. Chaperone is now a rapid fire slug shotgun. Tessellation is now going to charge up your Transcendence meter faster, and while in Transcendence it is going to gain a 25% damage buff. Black Talon now does suppression. The Wolfsbane Tornado is now going to last for a couple seconds longer and is gaining about a 20% damage buff. The suppression and flashbang nades are going to do a bonus 10% damage. They are reducing the penalties to void fragments for all classes. So some of the ones which are minus 20 are now being knocked down to minus 10. Some of the ones that are minus 10 are now just minus 0. And I believe they're giving a plus 10 to 1 or 2 of them. Threadlings are getting a boost to their, like, AI systems. So hopefully, you know, if one of them kills a Dreg, then the other 4 of them aren't just gonna dogpile on that Dreg's dead body. They're gonna actually go do something useful. Hunter. Starting with Graviton Forfeit. Now grants ability regen while you are invis, and this stacks up to 3 times. When you're already at 3 stacks, going invis again grants you an overshield. For the Omnioculus, upon making your teammates invis, will also heal them. Lucky Raspberry now jolts on hit, and jolts more often, and it chains further. The Orpheus Rig now increases the Shadow Shot duration by 4 seconds. Golden Gun is gaining a 26% damage buff, and now does Scorch on hit. Blade Barrage is now gaining a 39% boost to its damage. Throwing Knives across the entire board for all throwing knife versions is now gaining approximately a 50% buff. Acrobat's Dodge is gaining a regen speed buff of 112%. Gunpowder Gamble is gaining a 50% bonus when you shoot it. Shadow Shot Deadfall is gaining a buff to the Weaken effect, making it now the strongest Weaken effect in the entire game at 35% Weaken. Mobius Quiver. Firing the Mobius Quiver super and then dealing damage prior to shooting your next volley will increase damage to that next volley, as well as boost bow damage. Smoke Bomb is now gaining an increased 6 seconds of lifetime for a total of 9 seconds. Storm's Edge super now recharges 25% faster.
With Shatter Dive.
Shattering a Stasis Crystal will now grant Frost Armor. Silence's Squall gains a 63% buff in damage. The Hunter made grapple points on Strand Hunter. Making a grapple point will now, for your teammates, when they look at the point, will give them a temporary usage of a non-offensive grapple. So they can't punch, but regardless of class, regardless of subclass, they will be able to just grapple. Silk Strike Super is gaining a recharge rate of 11% and is gaining 13% damage resistance. And then that ties out Hunters. We have Titans. Yeah. I've got 2 more pages of buffs. Harbor Warden now makes 3 barricades in a Y-shaped pattern. Dune Marcher chain lightning hits now grants Bolt Charge. Ursa Furiosa now lasts much longer. The Second Chance now makes Void Breaches, and while wearing that armor piece, picking up a Void Breach will give you back some of your melee. Armamentarium is gaining Demolitionist in the aspect of dealing damage with guns will bump your nade damage, and a use of said nades will reload your weapons. Lion Ramparts now allow you to aim down sights while you are airborne. Hammer Throw Solar Titan melee now does more damage the farther it goes down range. Sentinel Shield Super will reload your teammates' weapons who are standing with you every 2.5 seconds, and it will grant them an overshield, and blocking damage with your banner shield will increase your shield throw during super. Fist of Havoc Super, dealing damage with a light attack, will now do a large increase to your next slam attack. And finally, kind of a nerf, kind of a balancing, I think it's not bad, but it's a fair one. The Strand Titan Banner of War melee damage boost, now instead of just being at 1 stack and it just gives you the damage boost, now it scales with each stack, so you need to hit ×4 to have the full damage boost. We now have Warlocks. Nothing Manacles will now stack with void charging aspect, and will create smaller explosions on kill that do chain, similar to Graviton Lance. Briar Binds are getting a damage per second buff, as the max damage per hit is still the exact same, but it will reach max damage much faster. The Storm Dancer's Brace now gives Bolt Charge, and it will proc its damage buff stacks on hit instead of kill. Winter's Guile gives Warlord's Rage. I'm going to put up on screen now exactly what that means. But long story short, it's a 10-second long, like 500% damage bonus to, melee. Matadoxia now gives a giant super damage buff to the Strand Super. It is supposed to be on par with Cuirass and with Nighthawk. Dawn Chorus now gives the Dawnblade Super explosions on hit instead of just scorching. Every single hit is guaranteed to have that nice crisp pop of damage. Dawnblade itself is getting a damage increase of 20%. Nova Warp Super, when you are charging up your attack, it will pull in targets to you. It has a 15% damage buff, and it now does the weaken effect. Vortex form of the Nova Bomb will now pull in targets the entire time and not just off, the first explosion. Storm Trance gets a 15% damage buff, and the Landfall effect will now last for an extra 16 seconds if you are unsure of what Landfall is. That is when you first pop your Storm Trance, and it sends a shockwave going straight down, and then it sort of pulses out for a bit. That jolting pulse will now last an extra 6 seconds. Chaos Reach is getting a 20% damage buff. Ionic Sentry will no longer self-blind if you toss it too close to yourself. The Lightning Surge aspect getting a 16% damage nerf only in PvP. The Winter's Wrath Super is gaining 210% damage on its Shattering Shockwave. Needle Storm will now prioritize bosses, so when you try to throw it at a boss, it's not going to scatter to all the little red bars. It's going to focus on bosses and champions. The Empowering Rift now increases your melee and nade recharge speed. And finally, this is an interesting one, I think. You can now cast your Warlock Rift while moving. It will not make you stand still on cast. It will slow your movement speed down to a walk, but you can continue to move while casting it. And that covers all of our changes, coming in about a week. So, just my general thoughts. I think that power creep is going to be interesting. I wonder how hard the new dungeon is going to actually be. And this in tandem with, the lightsaber and the new guns and all this coming out. The Sandbox is going to be incredibly fun, I think. I guess my only concern is that there's actually content to do. Like, for example, like Edge of Fate. I think the Edge of Fate Sandbox was pretty fun. There just wasn't anything to use these builds in. As soon as you beat the campaign, you've got the raid. Okay. You've got Caldera was new. Okay. You have the Sieve, that as soon as you get the Graviton fucking hand cannon, you don't use, like I haven't touched Sieve since I got the hand cannon. And then after those three things, exotic hand cannon, raid, and one solo op. And then you get to go fuck around in the portal and do activities that we've had for some of them 7+ years. So I hope we have the content to back up, these changes so that they feel fun, because having, Chaos Reach do extra damage is great and all. It's not gonna shake up the gameplay at all if we're still using it on fucking Kargan. So anyway, going live right now should be the Bunige, like Vidoc live stream thing. So I'm going to go watch that while I post this on YouTube. If you found this helpful, please like, sub. It like really does help channel growth. And I will see you guys at some point later. I love y'all. Praise God, and peace.
And just one last time, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I had a lot of fun making this. I hope that you guys will keep watching more. Thank you, and God bless you.